5:30 on this Monday morning and happening now. Gearing up for the governor's race, Montana's lone representative names his second in command on the campaign trail. Plus, we're learning more after a young woman was found dead following her disappearance New Year's Day. Details from investigators. And outdoor officials have big changes in store for residents as hunters and anglers look to get their licenses. Montana This Morning starts now.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is Montana This Morning from Montana's news leader.
Good morning and happy Monday. I'm Keely Van Mittendorp.
I'm Jason Laird. You look very springy today.
I felt very springy.
Very springy.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is, it's going to start out a little bit more spring-like this week, but wind, of course, is going to be the trade-off once again, right? Going to be starting things off here on the U.S. Bank ICAM again. A windy one to start things off. 24 miles per hour sustained out of the southwest, gusts at about 38 miles per hour. Sitting at 33 degrees here this morning, Opportunity Bank ICAM in the capital. Also windy, 17 out of the west, with gusts being reported at 23 miles per hour. Looking at those sustained winds taking us well into central Montana, northeastern Montana as well. We do have a couple warnings to break down for you here later in the show with those winds. So strong wind is going to continue here with a couple of mountain flurries and then a little bit warmer later this week. We'll tell you all about our winds this week and how warm we're expected to get shortly. Keely?
Thanks, Jason. And news around the nation tomorrow. 14 states will cast their votes on who they want the 2020 Democratic nominee to be. Super Tuesday is a mix of state primaries and caucuses. However, some 2 million votes have already been cast with mail-in ballots. That means that votes towards Pete Buttigieg and Tom Steyer, who both dropped out of the race, won't be counted. Candidates will be looking to California with the most, with 494 delegates at stake. And here at home, Congressman Greg Gianforte announced his running mate over the weekend as he makes a run for governor of Montana. MTN's Mitch Laggy was at the pub station in Billings Sunday as that announcement was made.
The pub station was packed with Gianforte's supporters ahead of his running mate announcement Sunday. Before Gianforte took the stage, the audience heard from Montana House member Daniel Zolnikov, Billings financial advisor Mark Thomas, and Lockwood State Representative Sue Vinton. After them, Gianforte announced who would be his running mate.
Please join me in welcoming the next Lieutenant Governor for the state of Montana, Kristen Juras.
Juras is a lawyer who lives in Great Falls and originally hails from Conrad. She got her undergraduate degree from the University of Montana and her law degree in 1982 from the University of Georgia.
I am excited about running as his Lieutenant Governor and working with him to make Montana an even better last best place.
One of the issues the campaign would like to tackle is jumpstarting the state economy to create more Montana jobs so kids don't have to move away as often to find work.
My son Evan, a graduate from Montana Tech, could only find a job out of state. 5 years later, just last year, Evan accepted a job in Bozeman because of the high-tech growth industry that Greg and Susan and their company has spurred in Bozeman. And I want all of you out there who have kids who are out of state to have that same opportunity to welcome your children home.
Along with that, Gianforte is hopeful the pair will be able to roll back regulations on small businesses in Montana and cut through extra bureaucracy that Gianforte said was added after 16 years of a Democratic Montana governor.
She's seen firsthand how red tape and misguided priorities have left too many folks struggling in Montana. She's helped farmers and ranchers and small businesses navigate the red tape and the web of bureaucracy that we've created here.
Gianforte and Juras will face off against State Senator Al Olszewski of Kalispell and Montana Attorney General Tim Fox for the GOP nomination. In Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
And continuing our coverage now of a story we first brought you back in January. Investigators released the official autopsy results for Selena Not Afraid over the weekend. The state medical examiner's office ruled that the 16-year-old Hardin girl died of hypothermia. They also say that the situation and her death has been ruled accidental. This report confirms the results of the preliminary autopsy report, which was released just days after Not Afraid's body was found on January 20th. Saturday's release does not include the results of a toxicology report, details investigators say they need in this case. Not Afraid was reported missing New Year's Day. Her body was found weeks later, less than a mile away from where she was last seen. In news around the state this morning, Sunday was the first day you could buy your 2020 hunting and fishing license and begin applying for permits and special licenses. Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks says there will be a few changes in store this year. One of the main changes this season is the transition from paper to digital applications. Hunters will be able to apply for permits and special licenses at the same time, either online or at an FWP office. All they'll need is a valid email address. Although paper applications will no longer be used, FWP will be using paper for licenses, permits, and carcass tags. These changes will help increase the efficiency of the application process and will allow hunters to print carcass tags electronically instead of waiting for them in the mail. You can still keep electronic versions of licenses and permits on your phone. And during the winter, you will find most fish crews not on a lake or river, but holed up in a dark room over a microscope. Fish crews across the state conduct a variety of wintertime surveys, from diet analysis to aging fish, in order to better understand a fishery's overall picture. Biologists can age fish by their scales and spines, but the go-to aging structure is an ear bone called the otolith.
The rings will tell us, just like on a tree, how old that particular fish is. We're also going to see what's out there in our population. You know, is it comprised of older fish, younger fish, or a bunch of fish in between?
And while the work can seem monotonous, officials say it's a culmination of all the time spent on the water that makes managing Montana's fisheries so important. Fish staff can spend up to a month analyzing data. The time is now 5:38 on this Monday, and coming up next, we take a look at the musicians behind the music in this week's Under the Big Sky. More from the Helena Symphony next.
And later in your weather forecast, clearing skies for the most part today, but a lot of wind. That wind is going to push us well into the 40s here this afternoon. As for the capital, we'll start out in the mid-30s, warming up nicely, though, as the day progresses well into the 40s as well. Even warmer tomorrow. Detailed forecast coming up shortly.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
And welcome back to Montana This Morning. The time now is 5:41 on this Monday, and assembling an orchestra requires time, talent, and of course patience. In the final preview of our Helena Symphony story, we take a look at how talented individuals are brought together to make beautiful music.
Under the Big Sky is sponsored by Allegiance, the Greater Montana Foundation, and Rocky Mountain Vein Clinic.
The Helena Symphony Orchestra is a professional orchestra. They work under a master agreement, effectively like a union. And it's like dealing with a pretty big sports team. You have 78 players, your 13 principals. They're sort of like your captains. These players, most of them are full-time musicians in some way. Teachers, professors, freelancers. There's changes needed sometimes. Some people are ready to retire. Some people might be relocating. We don't fill those positions quickly. We take our time. There's an interview process. The auditions to get in the orchestra are blind. They're behind a curtain, and there's an audition committee. A professional orchestra traditionally rehearses very tightly. 4 or 5 rehearsals, that's it. The music is distributed by the librarian. It's in their contract. They have to have it in their hands no less than 3 weeks before the first rehearsal. They're expected to arrive fully performance ready. I mean, they're expected to be on a much higher level. When you're the music director, you're not just conducting. You're working with the people who are fundraising. You're working with the marketing people. You are help guiding the ship. We get involved with music, at least I did, just to make music. I never thought about the other stuff. But that stuff is equally as important. You want to be involved in the community. You want to be out there. Your name is the name under the logo. The nonprofit world, it's not a top-down structure. It's a circle. Our staff, the musicians in the orchestra, the musicians in the chorale, the board, all told, the organization's about 200 people. Everybody has a voice at the table. Everybody has an impact. It's hard not to be excited to work for a group that makes art.
And 10 years ago, one of the biggest video rental chains in the country went bankrupt as video services like Netflix and Hulu took over. Despite the loss of many corporate stores, some locally owned rental shops have managed to stay in business. MTN's Lindsay Hyatt tells us how one Great Falls video store has survived.
For over 9 years, Michael Clark has kept his video store stocked with movies and more. But he never expected his business would last that long.
Me and the wife talked about it, we discussed it and said, well, you know, if we get 5 years out of it, it'll be entertaining. So we started up with the idea we were only going to be open 5 years.
When he first opened his doors, other stores were starting to close theirs.
You know, there was a lot of competition then. It was, I worked for a corporation movie gallery, they closed up.
So what is it about stores like this that keeps the shelves stacked and customers coming back?
Well, a lot of people in the community of Great Falls loves the store. The outlining communities also come into town. They like to buy movies here.
For Clark, it comes down to valuing movies over money.
To watch movies. That's what we're here for, to actually enjoy a disc. A lot of them, they were just looking for the big profit. And I don't make a great profit, but it's one of those things where one person can make a living at it.
He charges lower rates than most customers can find online, at $1.25 for older films and $3.25 for new rentals.
And so we are the cheaper market.
The cheap prices and consistent stream of movies keep Clark's customers coming back for more.
Now we keep them filled with movies, and people really still need that.
In Great Falls, Lindsay Hyatt, MTN News.
Mike's Movies and More says they won't be leaving the video rental business anytime soon.
Well, up next in your weather forecast, we're tracking more wind and warmer temperatures this week. We're waking up to 33 in Great Falls, cloudy and 32 in the capital. You notice very windy here along the Rocky Mountain front. A little batch of moisture is going to impact northeastern and eastern Montana later in the day. We'll talk about that shortly. Temperatures climbing up to about 46 for your daytime high this afternoon. Helena looking at the mid 40s as well. The wind remains the big talking point this week. Very strong wind gusts as well. Talk about that system after the break.
Now, here's your Storm Tracker weather forecast with Jason Laird.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. 33 degrees is what we're waking up to. The big downfall today is some strong wind. We are tracking a little batch of moisture. It's expected to impact mostly eastern Montana here as the day plays out. 28 in Lewistown right now. 24 degrees. How about miles per hour right now in Great Falls, 17 miles per hour in the capital. Notice winds pretty much sustained out of the west. That is going to be the big talking point here today, is strong winds continuing over the next few days. And check out some of the storm reports. Let me back that up here for you real quick. Some of the storm reports that we've had across the region. Cutbank reading in at 64 miles per hour bright and early this morning. Also looking at 87 miles per hour in East Glacier. So very, very strong winds continue to impact the area. As for the high wind warning, yeah, that's been put into place for north central Montana. That's going to take us through noon today. On average, 30 to 45 miles per hour. Gusts up to 70, not out of the question. As you just saw, East Glacier already seeing wind gusts at about 84 miles per hour. Those strong crosswinds are going to really impact travel throughout the area. To kind of show you where the winds are going to be today, especially along the Rocky Mountain front, 50 to 60 miles per hour, not out of the question. They are expected to kind of taper off a little bit later in the day, but then likely overnight into tomorrow, they're going to ramp back up. So getting back on the track of moisture, a little batch of moisture is going to try to make its way throughout eastern Montana here as the day progresses. More of a rain-snow mixture at times, but very, very minimal impacts. A good chunk of central Montana is going to stay mostly dry today due to those strong winds making their way over the mountains. We'll see temperatures well into the mid-40s today, 46 degrees in Great Falls, 44 in the capital. Well into the 40s along the High Line and eastern Montana as well. Tonight, pretty mild in most areas, a little bit chillier in Great Falls, 29 degrees, going to be much more average there in northeastern Montana, looking right on track with freezing along the High Line as well. Tomorrow, wind is going to be a talking point, 30 to 40 miles per hour. Helena, very windy as well, 40 to 50, not out of the question. Really up through about Wednesday, we are going to continue to track those very strong winds throughout the area. Here's how temperatures are going to trend over the next 7 days. Very mild today, 46 degrees, even nicer tomorrow, still strong wind on tap. Probably a little bit windier though on Wednesday. We'll kind of calm things down a little bit Thursday, Friday. Right now, it looks like we're going to have another batch of moisture moving in on Saturday, still a ways out. As for the capital, windy, can't rule out a couple of showers trying to make their way through late Tuesday into Wednesday. We showed you that system last week. It's lost a lot of strength, and then really 50s as the week plays out. Keely.
Thanks, Jason. We're now sitting at 5:51 on this Monday, and still to come. If you're running late or just in the mood for some golden arches this morning, we've got you covered. How you can get yourself a free McMuffin. Next.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
And welcome back to Montana This Morning. Well, McDonald's will offer free Egg McMuffins today. That's right, you heard me right. It's the same day Wendy's will launch its breakfast menu. McDonald's is calling today National Egg McMuffin Day. The sandwiches have been around since 1971, so the chain says it's celebrating 50 years a year early.
That's right, customers can get a free sandwich between 6 and 10:30 this morning, so that would be going on right now. All you need to do is download the McDonald's app, and of course Wendy's new breakfast lineup includes the Breakfast Baconator, Frosty, what is that, Chino? Frosty Chino, so it must be like a frosty coffee thing, and honey butter chicken bit. Ooh.
Oh man,
Ooh.
That sounds great.
Oh yeah, okay, I don't know, free McMuffin.
I know. Maybe you could hit up both hypothetically.
There
I
you
hate
go.
to say that, and like you could beat this whole like you could just rise
Work
above
the system.
Yeah.
Like it, yeah.
That's
Honey
always
butter
nice though. When
chicken
two
biscuit.
chains get into it, that always means
Battle
free
it
food
out.
for consumers. Yeah.
Of course.
I'm always for that.
Yeah. Was it Burger King that did the app thing a while back? Like they sent a ping if you went into like their competitor's lot or like a McDonald's lot or
Yeah,
something.
I think it was something like that.
Where you
Where
like,
you,
I think it
you
was
had
like
to
you
do
got like a free
something.
burger if you went
That's
to
kinda
McDonald's
cruel.
or something.
Whoever
That-
gets paid the big bucks to do those things.
Yeah, that is
Evil
clever.
masterminds.
Very
Yeah.
clever. You go and roll into McDonald's. Wait a minute, I get a free burger next door. That's where I'm headed.
Genius.
Genius. Mid-30s along the High Line here this morning. 33 in Great Falls. Really the big talking point today. Very windy conditions continue. So pretty much windy all week, at least through Wednesday, and then kind of breezy to wrap things up. Gusts well over 35 miles per hour. Bus stop forecast this morning in Great Falls. Mid-30s on tap. Plenty of sunshine. More sun, but very windy this afternoon. 45. A little bit chilly to start things off. Breezy in the capital. More wind this afternoon as well at 44 degrees. Temperatures over the next couple of days. 46. Warming up though a little bit over the next couple of days. Back into the 50s. That's taken us way above average yet again.
And stick around, your Farm and Ranch Report with the Montana Ag Network is next. It's 6 o'clock on this Monday morning and happening now. Officials say there is one thing that's spreading faster than the novel coronavirus, how fear of the virus is consuming consumers in Bozeman. Plus, MTN looks into a criminal justice law that deals with sex offender treatment, what we've uncovered in our investigation. And a day so nice, they celebrated it twice. More from a leap year baby. Montana This Morning starts now.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is Montana This Morning from Montana's News Leader.
Good morning, and thanks for waking up with us on this Monday. I'm Keely Van Mittendorp.
I'm Jason Laird. A little bit windy to start your day off. Kind of got that bite in the air here this morning. The good news is, though, temperatures are going to continue to climb as the week progresses. The downfall is so will the wind. This morning on the U.S. Bank ICAM, 31 degrees. Already seeing winds at about 20 miles per hour out of the west-southwest. Feels like 19, though, as you're heading out the door, factoring in the wind chill. Opportunity Bank ICAM in the capital, 32 degrees. Feels more like 20 once you factor in those strong westerly winds. Again, sustained winds about 20 miles per hour throughout central Montana as you're waking up this morning, so a bit of a brisk one. Strong wind continues, couple of mountain flurries, but a little bit warmer later this week. We'll talk more about that nice warm-up coming up shortly. Keely?
Thanks, Jason. We'll check back in with you soon. Wall Street is coming off its worst week since 2008. On Friday, the Dow dropped 357. The Nasdaq ticked up just a fraction. The S&P lost 24. Uncertainty over the coronavirus and its effects on the global economy has led the sell-off. Central banks around the world are starting to signal they're ready to step in with interest rate cuts to help ease the pain. And over the weekend, President Trump announced new screening procedures for coronavirus. In a tweet Sunday, he said that in addition to screening travelers prior to boarding from certain designated high-risk countries, they will also be screened when they arrive in the U.S. It is not clear which passengers from which countries will receive this increased screening, but high-risk countries currently include Italy, South Korea, Iran, and China. There were more than 70 confirmed cases of coronavirus in the U.S. as of Sunday morning, including new cases confirmed over the weekend in 6 different states, along with 2 deaths. New York, Rhode Island, Florida, Illinois, California, and Washington State all reported the virus, with Washington causing the most concern. On Friday, a man in his 50s died from the illness, and on Saturday, a man in his 70s. However, officials say both victims had underlying health conditions, but researchers are worried the virus could have been circulating for weeks undetected. Nearly 80,000 people have been infected with coronavirus worldwide. Antarctica is the only continent with no known cases. And here near home, coronavirus concerns climb as people are heading to hardware stores looking to stock up on respirator masks, and it looks like they're getting more and more difficult to find. Bozeman area residents were out in numbers looking to buy the N95 respirator masks over the weekend. They were looking for that specific mask because N95 is the rating that's required to protect from the airborne pathogens. Ace Hardware in Bozeman said their masks were back ordered until April.
We've been doing the best we can. The ones that we had ordered, they just sold out.
I visited Ace Hardware in Belgrade as well, and they had just a few left.
And Friday we sold $4,000 worth of these masks, so we're getting pretty low too, and almost everybody else is out of them.
The masks are a focus everywhere. MTN found there were N95 masks for sale online going for quite a bit more than local stores. Now, according to the CDC, washing your hands, avoiding touching your eyes and face, as well as covering your cough and sneeze are important measures to stay healthy. And a controversial treatment for convicted sex offenders is making headlines across the country this year. Tennessee lawmakers could become the 9th state or U.S. territory currently with some type of chemical castration law. We found out Montana is one of those states, and we've had the law for more than 20 years. In tonight's MTN Investigates, Evelyn Schultz looks at how it's been applied. She joins us now with a preview.
Close to 3,000 people are on Montana's sex offender registry. Of course, punishments vary from case to case. Chemical castration is technically an option for Montana's district court judges when they sentence sex offenders. But our investigation couldn't confirm a single instance of a judge ordering this treatment in our state.
For me to carry the bill, it had nothing to do with punishment. Nothing. This wasn't about punishing someone. This was about rehabilitation and public safety.
That's former Democratic Representative Deb Cattell of Great Falls. She introduced the bill more than 20 years ago as a way to provide the treatment option for sex offenders leaving prison. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle praised the bill, but as we found out, it's unclear if it's even been used a handful of times since it became law. Tonight at 10, we'll look at possible reasons why the law hasn't been used and if people in the criminal justice system even know about it.
Thanks, Evelyn. The time now is 6:06, and coming up next, local churches team up for active shooter training. More from the crisis course just ahead.
And later in your weather forecast, another round of strong wind, but clearing skies. Will start out in the high 30s, then if you want to call it warm, about 46 this afternoon, but that wind today at least is going to make it feel a little bit chillier. Mid-30s this morning, and then well into the 40s this afternoon in the capital with more wind. Your forecast is just around the corner.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
And welcome back to Montana This Morning. The time now is 6:10 on this Monday, and it's the middle of flu season, which means maintaining your overall health is a top concern for many. Over the weekend, students from the dental hygiene and dental assistant programs at Great Falls College MSU teamed up with community health organizations to provide free, accessible health care to members of the Great Falls community. Dozens of attendees visited the college to learn about health care resources and receive free dental services.
Direct correlation to dental health and overall health. The plaque on your teeth is directly correlated to the plaque on your heart. It's two different forms of plaque. However, the more plaque you have on your teeth, it seems to be the more plaque you have on your heart. And as we all know, plaque on your heart can lead to stroke, it can lead to heart attack, high blood pressure. So reducing that plaque can help reduce the plaque in other parts of your body. So that is why this preventative care is so important.
Teeth and taxes were both a focus Saturday for Great Falls. Tax Help Montana and AmeriCorps volunteers helped people prepare and file their state and federal taxes free of charge. Organizers say providing these services helps people give back to the Great Falls community.
Tax Help Montana last year, we did over 7,000 returns. We brought over $13 million into the hands of Montana community members. So that is all money that comes back into our community. So this is money that people are using to pay their rent. They're using to buy a car so they can get to and from work. They're using for their child care expenses.
And moving now from tax returns to the racetracks, motocross is a motorcycle racing sport in which riders compete on off-road courses using dirt bikes. Here in Great Falls, riders were hitting the tracks to learn more Saturday. Electric City Dirt Riders hosted a class which focused on improving techniques.
Doing trainings like this really helps with safety, I think, because it helps people get the skills necessary for when they go out and compete. Makes them understand cornering better, braking better, helps keep them in better control.
Now to East Helena, where a local church hosted an all-day course on a hands-on crisis. MTN's Alexi Aguayo has more.
Members from different churches gathered at Helena Valley Faith Center for an all-day crisis course. This course teaches the church members on what to do in emergencies, such as an active shooter or a disaster.
It doesn't matter the size of the community, large, small, bad things happen and everywhere. And we want to make sure that everyone is prepared for when that happens or if that happens, and so we can save as many lives as possible.
Greg Delo is the instructor of the course. He works with Strategos International, a company based on teaching groups such as churches, law enforcement, and all others on how to prepare for crisis situations.
So some of the skills I'm going to teach these guys today is how to apply tourniquets, how to take gauze and put it inside a wound to stop the bleeding if you can't fix that wound with a tourniquet, how to treat sucking chest wounds. So if you have a hole in your chest, we're going to teach you how to put a seal over that.
And I joined in with Greg during the tourniquet session. All right, so we're going to go ahead and try this. So let me go ahead and try it. So red tab, snap it off.
Snap it open. Rip it completely apart.
Rip it completely apart. Wrap around it as high to the leg as possible, right?
Yep, go high and tight is what we call it, high and tight.
High and tight. High and tight. And then you're just going to pull really hard.
Yep, pull as hard as you can in towards your body. Go. Yep, wrap it all the way around.
Wrap it all the way around.
And then start turning the windlass around.
And then start turning. And I can probably go one more. Okay. So explain to the audience that this is really painful right now, but pain is a good thing, right?
Yeah, when you go to put on a tourniquet, it has to be, if it's not painful, it's probably not working.
Okay.
This will hurt worse than the injury that caused people to need it.
You know, I think everybody should be prepared. And, you know, everybody should at least have basic knowledge of medical situations and needs, so.
We can save a lot of lives, and it doesn't take very long. And the people here in the room have the best chance of saving the most lives before EMS or PD gets here.
In East Helena, I'm Alexi Aguayo, MTM News.
Well, up next in your weather forecast, we are tracking strong winds once again, but with the wind comes some warmer temperatures. Feels pretty darn cold, though, this morning once you factor in the wind chill. Looking at Great Falls, 20 miles per hour in terms of winds. Out of the southwest, 32 in the capital. A little batch of moisture trying to impact northeastern Montana. Wind gust forecast today, it's going to be well into 20 to 30 miles per hour throughout central Montana. Temperatures also continuing to climb into the mid-40s, but more on your forecast coming up after the break.
Now, here's your Storm Tracker weather forecast with Jason Laird.
Well, thanks for spending your Monday morning with us. I'm Jason Laird, waking up to about 31 brisk degrees in Great Falls. It feels a lot colder than what it actually is once you factor in the wind chill, 32 in the capital. A little batch of moisture trying to move throughout northeastern Montana. Relatively cloudy skies. Those skies will clear out, though, as the day progresses. Already seeing sustained winds at 20 miles per hour in Great Falls, 18 in the capital, about 15 in northeastern Montana. A couple of storm reports that we've already seen, especially in north central Montana. Check it out. Cut Bank Bank, we saw 64 miles per hour bright and early this morning, 87 in East Glacier. So very, very strong winds in that area. That has warranted the National Weather Service to issue a high wind warning in this region. We'll continue to see winds through the noon hour at least at about 30 to 45 miles per hour. Gusts anywhere from 70 plus miles per hour. So in other words, travel in this region, very strong crosswinds along the Rocky Mountain front. To kind of track out those winds as your Monday morning progresses here, 50 to 60 all up and down the Rocky Mountain front. Even Helena seeing very windy conditions today. Those winds will likely let up a little bit this afternoon, but again, the Rocky Mountain front staying very, very windy, so I would not be surprised if the National Weather Service extends that high wind warning into this evening, maybe even tomorrow. So with that said, westerly winds are going to continue today. That will help to kind of burn off a lot of the clouds in central Montana. That wave of moisture, though, is going to impact eastern Montana. A couple splash and dash showers not out of the question there, and mountain flurries continuing today as well. We'll see daytime highs at about 46 degrees in Great Falls, 44 in the capital. Probably won't feel that warm, though, once you factor in the wind chill. Much more mild in south central Montana at about 50 degrees there, and mid-40s in northeastern Montana. Tonight, another chilly one, looking at 29 in Great Falls, 29 as well in the capital, mid-30s just west of the divide, and continuing with the high 20s in northeastern Montana. Another round of wind expected throughout central Montana tomorrow. Probably not quite as strong as what we're seeing today, but still going to be very, very strong on average for a good chunk of the area, and then more wind is going to continue on Wednesday as well. With the wind, we'll continue to see those temperatures bump up a couple of notches throughout the region. Over the next 7 days, here's how things trend for us. 46 degrees today, temperatures remaining in the 50s, and we're going to continue to stay nice and warm as we head toward the weekend there at about 57. As for the capital, windy as well, especially today and Wednesday, with 50s to follow. Keely?
Thanks, Jason. We're now sitting at 6:20 on this Monday, and what's better than celebrating a birthday? How about celebrating it twice? MTN's Lindsay Hyatt has one leap year baby's story.
Imagine being born on a day that only comes around once every 4 years. Well, for those less than 1% of the world's population born on February 29th, they don't imagine it, they live it. Today I met with one Great Falls leaper who doesn't know a birthday any other way.
As the Scribner family catches up on the couch, Ruth Scribner reflects on the birth of her leaper 60 years ago.
It was a very long day. All night. We were in the hospital a long time.
When asked whether she expected a leap year baby, she replied,
No, absolutely not. He was late.
A month late, in fact. Bruce was due in mid-January, but wasn't born until February 29th. While many leapers might feel cheated by the irregular birthday, Ruth said she and her son always made sure to celebrate.
I don't think he felt cheated. He didn't tell me if he was, but no, we had one every year, you know, just changed days.
In fact, Bruce used the uncommon date of birth to his advantage by taking twice as long to celebrate.
When I was in college, it was the 28th and the 1st.
And counting only a quarter of his age in years.
15 or 60, take your pick.
Now that he's leapt from a leap year baby to an adult, he makes his leap year birthday the liveliest.
Tends to be a little more crazy with my group of friends and family.
And overall, the Scribners feel lucky to have a leaper in their lineage.
I guess it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's been fun having this, yeah.
Tonight, Bruce will be among the approximately 205,000 people celebrating leap year birthdays across the United States.
Thanks, Lindsay. It's now 6:22 on this Monday morning, and coming up next, if you've got the case of the Mondays, then we might have a new job for you. We'll have more from NASA next.
I'm Vinny Politan. Coming up today on Court TV, covering two brand new trials. The first in California. California versus Robert Durst. He's a millionaire, the subject of the HBO hit series The Jinx. He's being tried for a 2000 murder. Meanwhile, in Polk County, Florida, this young man went on a dating app, and prosecutors say the woman he went on the date with came back with these three men to his apartment, robbed it, and shot him in cold blood. We are live with 2 brand new trials today on Court TV.
Watch Court TV on our MTN affiliates, KTVH Channel 12.4 and KTGF Channel 50.3. Powered by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
And welcome back to Montana This Morning. The time is 6:28 on this Monday. And are you looking for a career that is out of this world, literally? NASA is looking for its next class of astronauts. Today is the first day to sign up, and applications will be accepted until March 31st.
Now, among the requirements are U.S. citizenship and master's degree in one of the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, or math. Now, the master's degree requirement can be met in several other ways. Candidates must pass NASA's long-duration spaceflight physical. NASA currently has 48 astronauts.
Now, a handful of new ones will be hired for the astronaut corps and begin training. These Artemis generation astronauts could end up on the International Space Station or future planned missions to the moon and Mars.
That's super cool. Heck of a dedication, though.
I'm going to hold my calls for the morning. I'm just going to be right back.
There you go.
Get my master's
Keely's going to submit
degree,
everything.
And then, be on my way to the moon.
Should be a fun time, right?
big deal. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it's a heck of a commitment, though, and training program there.
That is
goes
so cool.
into that. Yeah. On the weather scene here this morning, looking at 31 degrees, winds out of the southwest 20 miles per hour. That's making it feel quite a bit cooler than what it actually is. The capital at 32. A couple of clouds and maybe a couple flurries making their way into northeastern Montana here this morning. Windy this week. That's a big talking point. The strongest wind through Wednesday, gusts well over 35 miles per hour on average, especially in north central Montana. Windy and 35 as you're heading to the bus stop, then mid-40s this afternoon. Very mild temperatures, but still windy. Breezy in the capital, more wind this afternoon, 44, and mostly sunny skies. Temperatures sitting at 46 today. 50s to follow. That's going to put us way above average. Again, feeling a little bit cooler, though, today with the strong winds in the capital. 44 and again 50s as we head through Wednesday.
And stick around. There's more news ahead. Montana This Morning continues after a short break. It's 6:30 on this Monday morning and happening now. Gearing up for the governor's race, Montana's lone representative names his second in command on the campaign trail. And outdoor officials have big changes in store as hunters and anglers look to get their licenses. Montana This Morning starts now.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is Montana This Morning from Montana's News Leader.
Good morning and thanks for waking up with us on this Monday. I'm Keely Van Middendorf.
And I'm Jason Laird. Well, very strong wind taking over our area this morning.
Like kite flying weather.
Yeah, kite flying, but yet kind of cold this morning, unfortunately, factored in the wind chill. But yeah, there you go. Later in the day, especially later this week, kite flying might be in the forecast. U.S. Bank ICAM looking at 31 degrees. Factoring in those 20 miles per hour in the terms of winds, it feels more like 19 as you're heading out the door this morning. Opportunity Bank ICAM in the capital, 32, feels more like 20. 18 miles per hour out of the west, with gusts being reported at 29 miles per hour. Very strong sustained winds, especially in Cutbank. Check it out, 41 miles per hour. Strong winds in northeastern Montana as well. That wind is going to continue with a few mountain flurries and warmer later this week. We'll break down that weekly forecast very shortly. Keely.
Thanks, Jason. Moving now to Wall Street. It's coming off its worst week since 2008. On Friday, the Dow dropped 357. The Nasdaq ticked up just a fraction. The S&P 500 lost 24. Uncertainty over the coronavirus and its effects on the global economy has led the sell-off. Central banks around the world are starting to signal they're ready to step in with interest rate cuts to help ease the pain. And over the weekend, President Trump announced new screening procedures for coronavirus. In a tweet Sunday, he said that in addition to screening travelers prior to boarding from certain designated high-risk countries, they will also be screened when they arrive in the U.S. It is not clear which passengers from which countries will receive this increased screening, but high-risk countries currently include Italy, South Korea, Iran, and China. There were more than 70 confirmed cases of novel coronavirus in the United States as of Sunday morning, including new new cases confirmed over the weekend in 6 different states, along with 2 deaths. New York, Rhode Island, Florida, Illinois, California, and Washington state all reported the virus, with Washington causing the most concern. On Friday, a man in his 50s died from the illness, and on Saturday, a man in his 70s. However, officials say both victims had underlying health conditions, but researchers are worried the virus could have been circulating for weeks undetected. Nearly 89,000 people have been infected with coronavirus globally. Antarctica is the only continent with no known cases. And tomorrow, 14 states will cast their votes on who they want the 2020 Democratic nominee to be. Super Tuesday is a mix of state primaries and caucuses. However, some 2 million votes have already been cast with mail-in ballots. That means votes towards Pete Buttigieg and Tom Steyer, who both dropped out of the race, won't be counted. Candidates will be looking to California the most, with 494 delegates at stake.
Please join me in welcoming the next Lieutenant Governor for the state of Montana, Kristen Juras.
And here near home, the pub station in Billings was packed with Gianforte supporters ahead of his running mate announcement Sunday. Kristen Juras is a lawyer who lives here in Great Falls and originally hails from Conrad. She got her undergraduate degree from the University of Montana and got her law degree in 1982 from the University of Georgia. One of the issues the campaign would like to tackle is jump-starting the state economy and to create more Montana jobs so kids don't have to move away as often to find work.
My son Evan, a graduate from Montana Tech, could only find a job out of state. 5 years later, just last year, Evan accepted a job in Bozeman because of the high-tech growth industry that Greg and Susan and their company has spurred in Bozeman. And I want all of you out there who have kids who are out of state to have that same opportunity to welcome your children home.
Gianforte and Juras will face off against State Senator Al Olszewski of Kalispell and Montana Attorney General Tim Fox for the GOP nomination. In more news around the state, Sunday was the first day you could buy your 2020 hunting and fishing license and begin applying for permits and special licenses. Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks says there will be several changes in store this year. One of the main changes this season is the transition from paper to digital applications. Hunters will be able to apply for permits and special licenses at the same time, either online or at an FWP office. All they'll need is a valid email address. Although paper applications will no longer be used, FWP will be using paper for licenses, permits, and carcass tags. These changes will help increase the efficiency of the application process and will allow hunters to print carcass tags electronically instead of waiting for them in the mail. You can still keep electronic versions of licenses and permits on your phone. Moving now to campus, with enrollment finally starting to stabilize, the University of Montana says this is the perfect time to reinvest in its infrastructure. Officials plan to ask the state legislature for $23 million next year for the state long-range building program. The money will go towards improvements at the main campus in Missoula, Montana Tech, Western, and Helena College. Buildings at the top of the list are the ones that are in most need of repairs, like the music building, which hasn't seen any major renovations since it first opened. College of Arts and Media interim dean John DeBoer says student needs have changed in the 70 years since the building went up.
Being able to focus and concentrate and really do the in-depth musical work that a student needs to do to get a music education isn't really possible right now in some of our spaces.
Rooms now hold twice the capacity they were built for. And this is one of the many buildings requiring asbestos abatement.
We have more on UM's renovation plans on our websites. The time now is 6:38, and coming up next, we take a look at the musicians behind the music in this week's Under the Big Sky. More from the Helena Symphony next.
Well, later in your weather forecast, another round of strong wind throughout central Montana. We'll start out at about 37 around 9 a.m. this afternoon, well into the 40s across the region. As for the capital, today, a couple of clouds should see a nice little clearing this afternoon with the mid-40s, just a lot of wind. We'll talk more about your weekly forecast very shortly.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
And welcome back to Montana this morning. The time now is 6:40 on this Monday. Potato farmers from Montana and across the nation were in Washington, D.C. this past week discussing issues that impact American agriculture on Capitol Hill. One matter farmers urged elected officials to resolve is the agriculture labor crisis. The Montana Ag Network's Lane Nordland has more from the nation's capital.
Agriculture in the United States takes a tremendous amount of labor, and in Montana, for example, right now, Bozeman area, we have less than a 2% unemployment rate. It's not easy to find labor, and we need help to harvest crops, we need help to plant crops. It just takes a lot of labor for us, and right now we don't have good access to get them. And a lot of our friends in the agriculture industry are struggling with employees who don't know what their status is going to be.
According to USDA, the H-2A temporary ag labor positions requested and approved has increased from just over 48,000 in 2005 to nearly 243,000 in 2018. To address the ag labor shortage, late last year the House passed the Farm Workforce Modernization Act. The bipartisan bill is supported by a majority of agriculture groups.
And we came up with a bill that's practical, that actually serves the interests of the United States by making sure that we have a workforce in the agricultural sector. We want a legal workforce in the United States of America, and this bill allows this to happen.
The National Potato Council and members of the House held a press conference on the steps of the Capitol, urging the Senate to take up the legislation.
We're here today to celebrate a great bipartisan vote in the House of Representatives. Passing the Farm Workforce Modernization Act was a great step forward towards solving labor crisis in rural America. Now it's time for the Senate to take up the bill. With new trade deals and markets opening for our agricultural commodities, we need the labor to get the crops out of the ground and to the markets. Just yesterday, we saw new access for potatoes in China. This was great news. Now we need the labor to meet this new demand.
Manhattan seed potato farmer Jason Kim said seeing both parties work together on the ag labor issue is reassuring.
Well, it's reassuring and refreshing to see that happen in D.C., to see that both sides of the table are working together, to see that we have the labor that we need to make this work.
Agriculture labor not only impacts farmers' bottom lines, but also the price of food in the grocery store. Reporting in Washington, Lane Nordland, MTN News.
Well, assembling an orchestra requires time, talent, and of course, patience. In the final preview of our Helena Symphony story, we take a look at how talented individuals are brought together to make beautiful music.
Under the Big Sky is sponsored by Allegiance, the Greater Montana Foundation, and Rocky Mountain Vein Clinic.
The Helena Symphony Orchestra is a professional orchestra. They work under a master agreement, effectively like a union. And it's like dealing with a pretty big sports team. You have 78 players, your 13 principals. They're sort of like your captains. These players, most of them are full-time musicians in some way. Teachers, professors, freelancers. There's changes needed sometimes. Some people are ready to retire. Some people might be relocating. We don't fill those positions quickly. We take our time. There's an interview process. The auditions to get in the orchestra are blind. They're behind a curtain, and there's an audition committee. A professional orchestra traditionally rehearses very tightly, 4 or 5 rehearsals, that's it. The music is distributed by the librarian, it's in their contract, they have to have it in their hands no less than 3 weeks before the first rehearsal. They're expected to arrive fully performance ready. I mean, they're expected to be on a much higher level. When you're the music director, you're not just conducting, you're working with the people who are fundraising, you're working with the marketing people, you are help guiding the ship. We get involved with music, at least I did, just to make music. I never thought about the other stuff, but that stuff is equally as important. You want to be involved in the community, you want to be out there. Your name is the name under the logo. The nonprofit world, it's not a top-down structure, it's a circle. Our staff, the musicians in the orchestra, the musicians in the chorale, the board, all told, the organization's about 200 people. Everybody has a voice at the table, everybody has an impact. It's hard not to be excited to work for a group that makes art.
Up next in your weather forecast, another round of strong wind is going to take us into the new work week, looking at 31 degrees in Great Falls as you're heading out the door, 32 in the capital. A couple of flurries trying to track through the far northeastern corner of the state, mid-30s along the High Line at this hour. We'll see temperatures climb well into the 40s here today for Great Falls. As for the capital, very similar, well into the 40s, but the talking point this week is still going to be very strong winds. We'll talk about just how strong they're expected to be this week coming up very shortly.
Thanks. Now, here's your Storm Tracker weather forecast with Jason Laird.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, a chilly start to the day as you're heading out the door for work today. 31 degrees in Great Falls, 32 in the capital. A little batch of moisture trying to make its way into northeastern Montana. Really, eastern Montana should be the only area today that sees a shower or two making its way throughout the area. The big talking point is pretty strong winds, sustained right now out of the west-southwest at about 20 miles per hour in Great Falls. A little more westerly in the capital, very strong in north-central Montana. Check it out, Cut Bank right now. 41 miles per hour, and check out the storm reports that are coming in the terms of wind. Some of the higher ones we've seen so far today, Cut Bank reading in at 64 miles per hour. Also East Glacier, check it out, 87 miles per hour. Strong winds are going to be the talking point. So with that said, National Weather Service does have a high wind warning in effect until noon today. Winds on average out of the west, 30 to 45 miles per hour. Gusts well over 70, not out of the question. So travel wise, strong crosswinds are expected all up and down the Rocky Mountain front. To kind of give you an idea of how strong those winds will be. Remaining pretty brisk all day today up through the noon hour, 40 to 50, maybe even up to 50 to 60 miles per hour in and around Browning and Augusta. Very strong even down toward the capital there. Those winds will let up a little bit overnight. However, the good news with the winds is it is going to help to bump temperatures a little bit and continue to clear skies out. Notice nice little clearing throughout the area. There's that little band of moisture trying to make its way throughout eastern Montana. Very minimal impacts though, and we'll likely see a few little weak mountain flurries throughout the western plains. How about western mountain ranges here today? Looking at 46 degrees in Great Falls, 44 in the capital, well into the 40s as we head into eastern Montana. Check out Billings, 50 degrees on tap today. A little bit chilly tonight, 29 in Great Falls, 29 in the capital, well into the low 30s along the High Line as well, 27 in northeastern Montana. Another round of wind on tap tomorrow. Probably not quite as bad as what we're tracking today. However, much more widespread wind tomorrow, likely 30 to 40 in Lewistown, 20 to 30 miles per hour around the noon hour tomorrow as well. That will continue to push those temperatures up a couple of notches. 52 in Great Falls, 50 degrees in Helena as well, well into the 40s and 50s throughout the eastern plains. Over the next 7 days, here's how things trend for us. Looking at about 46 degrees today, well into the 50s over the next couple of days. Check out Friday, flirting with the 60s there. As for the capital today, 44, pretty darn windy. Another round of wind expected on Wednesday, but keeping temperatures well into the mid-50s. Keely?
Thanks, Jason. The time now is 6:51 and new this morning. U.S. coal-fired power plants just had their worst year since the 1970s, and 2 U.S. senators unveiled a bill to support renewable and nuclear power. Jane King is at the NASDAQ this morning with those stories and more.
The top 2 senators on the U.S. Senate Energy Committee unveiled a bipartisan energy legislation package that would support renewable energy, efficiency measures, and nuclear power. The bill is designed to modernize the nation's energy policies. It contains measures to support wind and solar power, energy efficiency, advanced batteries, and building facilities to capture carbon emissions at power plants and for storage underground. Well, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says it will be temporarily delaying enforcement of 2 provisions in its hemp regulations. Hemp producers will not be required to use a lab registered with the Drug Enforcement Administration. And for the time being, they would have to dispose of so-called hot hemp containing excess THC through DEA or a law enforcement body. The measures were making it more difficult for those in the industry. Well, the sudden collapse of coal-fired electricity production is unprecedented. No energy source has experienced a 50% decline in a 12-year period dating back to the country's founding in 1776. That's according to EIA. Power generators are turning away from coal assets primarily due to economic factors. Coal-fired power plants have become more expensive to fuel and maintain than natural gas-fired plants. And drink mix brand Swiss Miss debuting its first non-dairy hot chocolate mix. Now, its products have always contained whey and non-fat milk, but this new non-dairy version relies on coconut milk for its creamy texture. In recent months, other traditional food and beverage companies have created plant-based versions of their classic products. From the NASDAQ market site, I'm Jane King with your Ag and Energy Report.
And taking a look at Wall Street, coming off its worst week since 2008. On Friday, the Dow dropped 357, the Nasdaq ticked up a fraction, the S&P 500 lost 24. And in more consumer news, the Federal Communications Commission wants to fine America's biggest wireless carriers over privacy violations. The FCC is proposing handing wireless companies tens of millions of dollars in fines. They allege AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and Verizon failed to protect the privacy of U.S. cell phone users. The companies are accused of improperly sharing customers' real-time location information to third parties. Under the proposed fines, T-Mobile could pay more than $91 million. AT&T would pay more than $57 million, Verizon more than $48 million, and Sprint more than $12 million. So far, T-Mobile is the only company that says it would fight the FCC.
Coming up, another U.S. coronavirus death reported, and now the disease reaches New York. We'll talk with Governor Andrew Cuomo. Plus, how Pete Buttigieg's withdrawal from the presidential race could impact other candidates. Coming up on CBS This Morning.
And welcome back to Montana This Morning. We're about 4 minutes away from the top of the hour. Let's get you out the door with the day's top stories now. The Bub station in Billings was packed with Greg Gianforte supporters ahead of his running mate announcement Sunday. Kristen Juras, who is a lawyer in Great Falls and originally hails from Conrad, she got her undergraduate degree from the University of Montana and got her law degree in 1982 from the University of Georgia. We have more on Juras and her work on our websites. Investigators released the official autopsy results for Selena Not Afraid over the weekend. The state medical examiner's office ruled that the 16-year-old Hardin girl died of hypothermia. They also say that the situation and her death has been ruled accidental. Saturday's release does not include the results of a toxicology report, details investigators say they need in this case. And in the news around the state, Sunday was the first day that you could buy your 2020 hunting and fishing license and begin applying for permits and special licenses. Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks says there will be a few changes in store this year. One of them is a transition from paper to digital applications. Hunters will be able to apply for permits and special licenses at the same time, either online or at an FWP office. All they'll need is a valid email address. Although paper applications will no longer be used, FWP will be using paper for licenses, permits, and carcass tags. You can still keep electronic versions of licenses and permits on your phone. And McDonald's will offer free Egg McMuffins today, all to steal the attention away from Wendy's breakfast menu, which launches today as well. Customers can get the free sandwiches between 6 and 10:30 this morning. All you'll need is the McDonald's app to do so. Wendy's new breakfast lineup includes the Breakfast Baconator, Frosty Chino, and Honey Butter Chicken Biscuits. And it's our favorite time of the week. It's our Mugshot Monday segment.
Yeah, I got some awesome ones in here. This one is pretty good. I gotta walk up here. I want to be where the people aren't. That's outstanding. Got some pretty cool ones in again this week here.
That one's good too.
Yeah, this one's kind of
this
cool.
one.
Yeah, this one's hard to see, but long story short, it's about trying to conceal this dude's identity, except the coffee mug gave away his
Right, but the mug is actually an old, or it's made from that time period too.
Yeah,
so it's really cool.
Super
I
cool.
love this. I have this mug at home. I'm just gonna brag about it.
There you go. That's
This one's
outstanding.
just adorable. Calving season
Getting his coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
And then wrapping it up with a little.
He's got a little bit more coffee than I think he needs.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, he's going to be even more spastic. So, big congratulations to today's winner. They're going to get themselves some.
Got a lot of animal ones in this week. It was awesome.
Right. So Betsy Erickson, thank you so much for sending that in. Giving the horses a little
I think
extra.
she said also she's posting, it was Betsy and Patty Erickson who
Oh,
posted.
okay.
So congratulations to both you ladies. I hope you can split the gift card, like 50-50 maybe.
There you
or
go.
One keeps the gift card, one keeps the mug. I don't know.
Swing by the KRTV studios, get your Morning Light Coffee Roasters gift certificate and a KRTV mug, and get those mug shots in for next week. Of course, we'll pick our very favorite. Hook yourself up with some Morning Light Coffee from Morning Light Coffee Roasters. Just use hashtag Mugshot Monday. Post it right on the Facebook page. As for the Doppler network right now, tracking some early morning flurries there in northeastern Montana, moving into the Dakotas. Relatively clear ring skies. We'll see a couple of clouds early. They should move out, though, with that strong wind, 31 in Great Falls. It feels a lot colder, though, this morning as you're heading out the door, factoring in the wind chill. So that wind is really going to stick with us most of the week. The strongest wind expected through Wednesday, gusts well over 35 miles per hour. North central Montana is going to really catch the brunt of that. Windy this morning, 33 as you're heading out to the bus stop, then mid-40s this afternoon, warming up nicely, but again, the trade-off is wind. Mid-30s and breezy this morning in the capital, more wind this afternoon with a couple of clouds still at about 44 degrees. Temperatures normally would be sitting at about 42. We're going to be above that today and tomorrow and Wednesday. Much more mild there with strong winds throughout the area. As for the capital here, 44 degrees, and then temperatures continue to climb as we head through Wednesday. So I guess the trade-off there, warming but windy over the next few.
Well, our news doesn't stop here. You can get continuous news and weather coverage on our mobile apps throughout the day.
We're back in a short 25 minutes or so with the day's latest headlines and an updated forecast. We'll keep you up to date on those windy conditions and update you on that high wind warning in north central Montana as well. Stick around. CBS This Morning is next. Have a great work week, everybody. We'll see you here shortly.